Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Pulse. Thanks for joining us. Really happy this week to be interviewing Gretchen, Enneagram Prison Project's intern. She's done a bunch of different stuff for us, and we're super excited to have her on board. So, Gretchen, hi.
Hi.
Can you tell people a little bit about who you are and how you got involved with EPP?
So I'm Gretchen. I'm a sophomore at Syracuse University, studying political science. Actually, with EPP and heard about it for the past 10 years. So then last semester I took a class at Syracuse about nonprofits and kind of how to manage them, how to run them, that kind of thing, and learning about what they are. So then I had to do a final project. I thought it'd be really cool to interview some people I knew with EPP because I'd heard a lot about it and knew it was really inspiring work. So it was really cool to see how that happened and then started interning with you guys this summer.
That's cool. Who did you interview? Because you can tell people your relation to Susan and Rick.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm their niece. So yeah, so I just called them and got to talk to them about kind of the different parts. We learned about what a board is and what it takes to do community engagement and that kind of thing, and being able to apply that to EPP and to their work was really cool.
That's neat. So you are literally and figuratively part of the EPP family.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So talk a little bit about your experience just with the Enneagram. Have you studied the Enneagram yourself? Do you know what type you are? What has that been like for you?
So I'm a type 1. And so we have big family reunions every 2 years. We're all get together and the entire family, which is really fun. So for the past probably 3 or 4 family reunions, Susan's kind of pulled us aside and talked to us about our different Enneagram types. So one family reunion a couple years ago, she sat down with me and had me go through this list and helped me figure out which type I am. And then we kind of are able to compare it with our the other cousins and figure out kind of get to know each other better through the Enneagram too, which is really cool.
It's fun.
Yeah, in our most recent one, it was a rainy day and we didn't really feel like going anywhere. So we sat in this big family room and talked about the Enneagram for 5 hours straight. It was a little intense, but it was really fun.
I love it. If only all families could have 5-hour conversations about the Enneagram, I think the world would be a different place.
Yeah. And it's really cool because there's 20 of us. So then at least one of us, there's at least one person for each of the 9 types. So every time I hear oh, there's a type 4, I'm oh, that's my cousin, that kind of thing.
I love it. That's really cool. And then not too many months ago, your name popped up on a phone call that a group of us at EPP were having, that you might want to be an intern. So did I don't actually know, did EPP approach you and ask you to intern, or did you say, hey, I want to be an intern?
Oh yeah, Susan reached out to me and said we're kind of doing this thing, would you want to do some writing and stuff for us in an internship? And yeah.
Awesome. So tell people what you have done thus far for EPP.
Mostly it was social media stuff, which is kind of cool because that's something I definitely wanted to get a better skill at because I know that's an important thing to have under my belt going forward. So doing some copy for the articles, if you see an article on our Facebook, I might have written some of the copy that goes along with it, talking about what the article is and how it relates to EPP. And also we're doing movie reviews. So I've been watching movies related to prisons and prison reform and things like that. A lot of documentaries, and then just kind of writing my thoughts about them.
Very cool. And how
it's also cool to see
just
kind of how social media is run, and I sat in some of the calls and there's a lot of thought process that goes into planning out stuff that looks effortless. So it's kind of cool to see that aspect too.
Yeah, definitely. How has that experience of writing and reading news articles kind of related to the justice system, or writing content for a movie review or a documentary, how has that changed your thoughts on our justice system as a whole? I'm curious.
It's hard to put your thoughts down on paper, because you kind of have this visceral reaction, oh, I know this isn't right, but you have to kind of explain why and what specifically about that and what to go forward with that. So that I just I think it just was up on the review about the 13th Amendment and how you like how the United States government has essentially used the label criminal to like vilify an entire like population. And it's hard to be able to like articulate that really well and like write about racism. And I think it helps me kind of solidify my thoughts and like opinions on it, because I would say like these are my thoughts. So
yeah, and I know personally, you're right. It is really difficult to kind of put thoughts down on paper about these really complex subjects: racism, crime, what we call our justice system and how it works. And I like what you said about, having this sense and this feeling that it's not right and something's broken about it, but not exactly knowing how to put that down on paper. But I know that everything you've written for us has been very well received. So I just wanted to thank you for all of your hard work this summer. And you got to come out here, right? Because you came out to the Bay Area, the San Francisco Bay Area. Talk a little bit about that, what you came out here for.
Well, so that was my first time in California, so that was really fun. So I got to spend, there was like the IEA, like the International Enneagram Association conference in Oakland. And then after that, we did a symposium at a prison nearby too, so that was really exciting. I also got to visit with a bunch of family because
Love it.
all the Lessicks are out there, so that was really fun. So I spent a day like touring San Francisco with my cousins. And also then I went and like kind of sat in on this conference, and I knew like a decent amount about the Enneagram, but definitely not to the extent that anyone else there knew. Like they were like, so it was cool to just kind of sit there and soak in like all of their like wisdom and knowledge and stuff. And I feel like I learned a ton.
What struck you the most? Like, is there a memorable moment from that conference where you were like, either something that really hit you in a certain way, or a moment that was really impactful for you?
So I think there are like definitely two big aspects. Like one was like the conference itself and like all the different speakers and presentations and stuff. And I feel like there was one about like understanding the different like subtypes, like the social one-to-one and the self-preservation. And I kind of like heard what those were, but actually like I figured out what that meant and like was able to kind of like identify with one of those. So that was really cool.
That's complex stuff. Like, I still am trying to wrap my head around this idea of subtypes and what that means and how that relates to my type. I didn't get to go to the conference. I'm super jealous, but I bet that must have been really fascinating to just really have some time to dive into that deeper material.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like I know they talked about like because I'm a social one, so like I'm the social subtype, and they like what got me was when they said like social types care about the dress code, not because they care about like how they're dressing necessarily. They just want to know like how they're fitting into the scenario. And I know like I spent forever trying to figure out what to wear to this conference. Like
I love it.
Like, every time I go is like I'm just conscious about how I dress because it's how you're kind of fitting in like with the group dynamic, and like that kind of clicked for me. So that was kind of cool.
I love it. And then I met you in person inside the prison. So talk about what that experience was like for you, walking into that prison for the first time.
So it was like there's a lot of like build up to it because there's logistics of figuring out how to get there, like where to put our luggage. So I felt like we spent like a couple hours just trying to like get there and get through security and all that stuff. And then so there's like a ton of different like processes you go through, like your sugar ID at this gate and at this gate, and you dress this way, and then so like I felt like, and then we passed through those doors like into the courtyard after we'd gone through all that security process, and it's just this big open like beautiful courtyard, and I was just not expecting that at all, and it was a totally different atmosphere, like different dynamic, like so that was really cool to see.
And can you talk about, obviously we're not going to say any names, but I know whenever I talk about my volunteering with EPP, people ask. So I'm curious about your perspective of interacting with the in custody population, the men that you met inside. How was that for you?
So I thought I like wasn't sure of like just how like approachable they would be, like if they wanted to talk to some random like 19-year-old who like was just kind of there like for the experience, but everyone was so friendly and everyone was just like interested in anything I had to say about like my family or about the Enneagram, and like it was cool when I talked to other ones, like we just have so much in common right away, like I totally get a lot of things about them and I just met them, so I think that was really cool talking to the ones especially. Just because we could like instantly connect and like, wow, we really understand like our motivation and stuff like that. So that was really cool.
Totally. I love that, right? I love that, a sophomore from Syracuse can come into a California prison and connect on a kind of personal level, with the guys that are in custody.
Yeah.
What did you think of, and for everybody watching, we'll be posting more about this particular event that we're discussing, but what did you think of some of the panel discussions? So some big heavy hitters with the Enneagram, Helen Palmer, for one, led some panel discussions. So what did you think of those? How was it watching those for you?
It was really interesting because I feel like I never like been to one of like the classes or like any of the other parts of like kind of using like the Enneagram like through EPP. So it was kind of, I got like a mini sense of that, which was really cool. And just to see like everyone else's like reaction to it too, I thought was really cool. And like in between each panel, we kind of had a brief moment to like discuss and like talk. And I remember there was the one where they were interviewing the different EPP ambassadors. And the topic came up of like how hard it is like once you get out of prison to kind of like acclimate yourself to like a new life and new lifestyle, and it's really hard, and like it takes a lot of like personal strength. And the guy was sitting next to me was like, well, that's really hard to hear, but that also like gives me hope. And I thought it was just kind of cool to be there to like see that and like see that be a big moment for him.
Oh, that's so neat. What a cool little like glimpse
That
into,
was really cool.
yeah, what a cool glimpse into like the personal experience of, how our ambassadors can relate to guys that are still on the inside and kind of share wisdom in that way.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, here's a big question, and then we'll follow up with a fun question. So the big question is, has anything about this summer and being an intern with EPP, what about that experience, if anything, what has that taught you about yourself?
Good question.
It's a big one, I know.
I think so. Like one of the nights when we were at the like IEA conference, there was like we were supposed to be like at this like it was like a party like dinner night or something, and we all like all the EPP people kind of just like ended up on this like patio in the hotel, and then was like going to go to bed early that night. We ended up talking until like midnight or like 1 a.m. or something. But just kind of like being there with people, except for like my aunt and uncle, like people that I only met like 2 days ago. And it was just this really cool community, and like everyone was just like, we're gonna put our hearts out there and share like everything. And I thought that was just really cool to be a part of. So I think that just like really touched me, and that was like, so I'm definitely always gonna remember that, and just kind of like, this is the kind of atmosphere the world needs more of. So
yeah, I love that, and I can totally relate to that. That's been my experience as well. And if anybody's watching, considering, offering to volunteer or getting involved with EPP, what would you tell them about your experience thus far?
Definitely do it. So I like showed up to dinner like the first night, and they were like, there's this random 19-year-old girl who's niece, and their conversation, like as soon as I sat down, was like, you don't really get that in a lot of other places in the world. So yeah, it's really, really cool.
I love it. And then the fun question, or the fun ask, Gretchen's not going to be interning for us as aggressively over the next few months, because what are you doing this semester in school?
I'm going to Morocco for a study. Yeah, so I leave Wednesday, which is really exciting. I have a lot of stuff to do, but I'm really excited.
I love it. What a cool experience. You're going to have an amazing time, I'm sure.
Yeah,
well, listen, Gretchen, thank you so much for taking a few minutes of your day today to talk to me and to talk to us. And I know everybody at EPP has been really grateful for your contributions. And I can't wait to hear about your Morocco experience after you get back.
I definitely want to stay involved and like keep doing stuff for EPP. Really loved it.
Yeah, so. We love you. All right, Gretchen. Well, we are going to sign off. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you next time.